Yes, restraint of the senses, I find, is probably most useful as to understand as a effect of practice, of practicing the Dharma in all its ways, rather than as a primary activity and practice. That it may be a primary, it may have a place in terms of very, very coarse or gross or high-level choices, so that if you're using the internet, you can choose to go to pornography sites, which apparently there are a huge number, and pornography is for intensifying sexual feeling, for arousing sexual feeling, not stimulating and intensifying sexual feeling. And so restraint of the senses, not doing that, that's the not scratching the itch part. The itch is still there, but not scratching it, which is counterintuitively the way to work towards freedom from the itch, is probably most intense in the sexual area. But it's a sign of how seductive sensory experience is for attempting to scratch the existential itch that good food seems to it tempts us with a sense of being satisfying, providing satisfaction, and so you can run around earning lots of money so you can afford to have $1,000 breakfasts or whatever, and you can look at that and see, well, what I do in order to get this satisfaction is quite strange when I look at the satisfaction for what it is. The taste of food is such a passing thing. What satisfaction does it offer? It's a good use for looking at sensory experience. A good way of looking at sensory experience is to use the Buddha's advice of seeing the misery, seeing the pleasure, satisfaction, seeing the misery, and seeing the escape. So at first we just look for the satisfaction and the misery. So when we're doing something because it tastes good, it feels good, then we're just centered on the satisfaction, and we like it to be as satisfying, the more satisfying the better. But the Buddha's advice is to see what the satisfaction is in that. And it may be that when you see what is satisfying, let's say smoking a cigarette and being intoxicated, and there are many ways of being intoxicated, not just with alcohol. It may be that you see there's some satisfaction, but there's also some misery involved in that. There's misery here and now, and misery that comes as a consequence of the activity that I'm doing here and now. So if you see that, you may want to be interested to look at that, and it may be that the satisfaction becomes weaker and weaker, less and less. One sees the satisfaction is not very compelling, and the misery starts seeming greater and greater. And then if one sees that, then one might be interested to look for the escape from being caught up in that process. And with a lot of addictive behavior, the escape is not obvious. And even when one sees what one needs to do to escape, it's not easy to do. So once an addiction has become stabilized, then it's very hard to deal with. Seeing a lot of our behavior as addictive behavior is probably more accurate than the way we normally see it. And with sexual behavior, the sexual drive being understood to be an evolutionary natural process, the idea of escape from that seems far-fetched or fantastical. But we can at least understand the kind of hunger involved in seeking pleasant tastes when a lot of healthy food might be quite bland, let's say, or maybe actually a bit repellent or not attractive. We can at least see, well, there's the seeking pleasant taste is futile, or we see the futility in that. We can see the futility in assuaging anxiety by smoking. We can see the futility of assuaging inhibition and uptightness by getting drunk. So these are all things we can work with, and they all suggest restraint of the senses as being a temporary thing to develop. It's something that we use as part of the process of escaping from addictions once we've felt the pain of addiction. And that's why I think restraint of the senses is not in itself such a profound thing, but it's a useful thing for dealing with coarse addictions. And for, let's say, sexual intensity, restraint of the senses, I think just not going out of your way to seek arousing input is probably a wise thing. Now, lots of people pornography is such a big business online and so on because people seek it out. They actually want to intensify sexual craving. So apparently motel rooms all through the Western world have, maybe the Eastern world, have pornography channels on their TV. So when you go to a short time motel, apparently extra stimulation is a good thing. So I say to each his own or her own in this, but when the age-old interest in aphrodisiacs shows that a kind of obsessive or addictive thing involved with sex, that when these sexual feelings are waning, people, or maybe men, I don't know, but men certainly, seek substances to arouse this again. Whereas it's at least possible that when sexual feeling wanes, it might be quite a relief.